Over on Semi Insider this week, specifically on our weekly live event, we got asked about Ouster, which is one of the companies in our small bets basket. We did the initial deep dive on Ouster about a year ago now, and things are going well. But a number of things have been announced in recent weeks in conjunction with Q1 2026 earnings that we think are interesting. It's worth spending a bit of time to discuss. But first, by way of review, let's talk about what Ouster does. Here's a look at the electronics and semiconductor manufacturing flow. We have Ouster listed there at the bottom. Historically, they are an IDM, integrated device manufacturer. They still handle some in-house manufacturing of their products in the US. It is a pretty small facility these days. Predominantly, they actually operate as a fabless company now. And companies like Fabrinet manufacture their wafers. That's notable. Fabrinet we've talked about in a couple of different contexts as well with Lumentum. And then a company called Benchmark Electronics, also a publicly traded company, is specifically called out by Ouster in their annual report as handling the packaging of their products. The business model has been trending the right direction since the merger with Velodyne a few years ago. More incremental progress was reported in Q1 2026, revenue of $49 million, up 49% year over year. So that continues to meet the company's 30 to 50% growth goal. That's fantastic. GAAP gross margin making small progress, over 40% on a GAAP basis. That's a key milestone for an IDM. As a predominantly fabless company, though, we expect this gross margin should get much higher. It should continue to increase to 50% over time. But as we talked about last year, and really no change here, the revenue growth is the primary driver of this story. You see the seasonality there, which we talked about over on Semi Insider in Q4 2025. There were some non-recurring one-time revenue items that hit there at the end of 2025, but you can see the direction gradually up and to the right, a bit of acceleration here in Q1, but the company still operates at a loss, although they do continue to make small incremental progress towards break even there as well. And in the interim, there in the pink line, shares outstanding. Yes, Ouster is continuing to keep its cash balance afloat via the issuance of new stock. So financially speaking, this is still a prove it business. That's why it's a part of our small bets basket, a constituent there. And we will let the company organically prove its worth, prove that it deserves to be a larger position of our portfolio over time as the financials improve. But the upside to this, it does look like Ouster is continuing to make solid progress. Their outlook for Q2 at the midpoint, about $51 million in sales expected. That would once again indicate a mid 40%, maybe even high 40% year over year revenue growth rate. So the financial picture continues to improve, but let's set aside the financials here for just a moment and talk about some of the items that are coming down the line that could be more of a game changer for this very small, still nascent LiDAR industry, with Ouster and Hesai kind of emerging as two of the top leaders in this emerging space. In recent weeks, Ouster has been talking about its native color LiDAR. And this is a feature that is included with their new LiDAR sensor lineup, the REV8 family. You can see this kind of grainy, pixelated looking picture taken at Yosemite National Park. But unlike LiDAR imaging that you maybe have seen before, where true color is not really actually represented, it's not really part of the sensor, this REV8 family is able to consolidate the context of color directly with the LiDAR itself. And what's the breakthrough with this? Why is this a potentially big deal? Well, for companies building physical AI, let's say a self-driving car company, they have to rely on sensor fusion. Many of them will combine the benefits of things like LiDAR and radar that provide depth perception, timing. You'll often see that called temporal context. And they need to fuse that sensor data with something from a camera, like, for example, a CMOS image sensor. We'll come back to that here in just a moment. But that sensor fusion requires more chips that take that data, combine it together into something usable, and you end up with a more complex and more expensive system. Ouster's new chips that power this REV8 family now add the color directly into the LiDAR itself. They had a co-announcement with Fujifilm on this, where they talk about using Fujifilm's lens technology. Those lenses help filter the color that comes back to those LiDAR chips. So that's the big breakthrough here with this L4 Max chip. Now, you may be thinking, well, this sounds awfully familiar. Maybe you caught our video or read our article on the research dashboard about Sony Semiconductor, which we did with Bob Ma from Wind Ventures. Here are some of the visuals that we grabbed from Synopsys, Ansys, and Fujifilm, showing how lenses and color filters help create these high-density pixels of light that can be turned into a high-definition picture or video. And essentially, you can think of a CMOS image sensor, like what you have riding around on the back of your smartphone, as a receiver. It's a sensor that receives a real-world signal, in this case, light, converts that into digital data, and then it is able to render that as a picture or a video on your screen. This is going to be an important technology for a lot of physical AI, for self-driving cars, for robotics, for industrial applications. CMOS image sensors are very cheap. Their performance has scaled greatly over the years, and a lot of algorithms are being worked on to make the 2D image that is created by that usable for a physical AI system. Again, be it a car, a robot, or whatever. But it is just a receiver. So as cheap and affordable as it may be, there are limits to this because it is just ultimately a 2D image, and there's a lot of missing context there. And that is the benefit of a sensor like LiDAR. LiDAR isn't just a receiver, it actually is a transmitter and a receiver. That offers some really big benefits because you get depth perception, you get a 3D image or video, 3D image data, and you also get that temporal context, timing. So the measurement of velocity and acceleration. The way this works is you have a few different semiconductors within this system. You have the digital receiver that collects the photons of light coming in from the outside world. But the transmitter part of this is the laser array, the V-cell laser array that sends the signal, and then that light bounces off of the world around the sensor, and then it returns and gets collected by that digital receiver, and then the micro-optics system is able to work with that and ultimately convert it also into digital data. But you get a lot more digital data with this, again, because it's a 3D image. You get timing that goes along with that. And now, thanks to the color filters that Ouster has embedded into its LiDAR, you also get the extra context of color. Again, if you look at this image, it is very pixelated. It's not ultra high definition like you would get with a CMOS image sensor, but nevertheless, you do get the added context of color. So companies building physical AI systems might be able to simplify the sensors they're building into their computing systems with just one single sensor that combines some of the benefits of high definition imaging with LiDAR all into one. Here is another look at that REV8 family of LiDAR systems from Ouster. A lot of different form factors, everything from fixed LiDAR for a fixed field of view, like 180-degree view, or something similar to what you see spinning around on a self-driving taxi, like a Waymo. That's what that spinning device is spinning around the sensor array to provide a 360-degree field of view. So a lot of different form factors here, but it is ultimately still a more complex system than what you would get with just a CMOS image sensor. And because of that added complexity, also the larger size, it's not nearly as small as what you can get with just an imaging sensor. That means LiDAR is still more expensive. But for some companies building physical AI, this may still make sense. Ouster has announced Some early customers are starting to use these things, and no doubt Ouster will continue to improve the performance and simultaneously shrink down the size, decrease the complexity, and over time decrease the price per unit of these LiDAR sensors. As far as economics go and how it pertains to the business models, the mainstream visual sensor is still going to be CMOS image sensors. They're small, they're cheap. You can cram a bunch of them into a physical AI system, and the algorithms continue to improve to add the needed extra context that you need that maybe you don't get from LiDAR with that depth and timing. But Ouster continues to make advancements, and the LiDAR market is interesting, especially as they add these new features like LiDAR sensing into the mix. Over time, we think the LiDAR market can continue to increase the size of its addressable market, and maybe some of these companies like Ouster can eventually turn a profit as well. So they continue to pique our interest, enough so that we're willing to keep that small bet, and we'll continue monitoring to see how the situation unfolds in the years ahead.